you.
Did you get them all done?
I got them all done. Done.
Call this meeting of the Committee of the Whole to order at 6:15. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Allen?
Here.
Mayor Murphy?
Here.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Darning? Mr. Burchett?
Here.
Mrs. Witt?
Here,
Ms. Marcus?
Here.
I'll make a motion to excuse Councilman Doherty from this meeting.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Witt?
Yes.
Mr. Burchett?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Ms. Marcus?
Yes. We have the approval of the minutes for the meeting on August 24th. If there are no changes or corrections, they will be approved as they are. Hearing none, they are approved. Finance Director,
No report, thank you.
City Manager,
I have no report, Ms. Marcus, thank you.
Mayor,
No report, but thank you.
Law Director,
No report, ma'am, thank you.
Clerk of Council.
I have nothing, thank you.
Okay, we'll move into business. At this time, we have the review of the 2022 financial audit.
Yes, thank you. On September 5th, the official audit and annual financial statements were released by the Auditor of State. They are available on the state's website. We have also posted them on the city's website as well. So every year, we have to go through a financial audit to review our practices and policies and to audit, transactions that are made for the previous year. But then also at the same time, we have financial statements that are compiled. And so those financial statements are also audited as well. So there's multiple, there's two pieces going on at the same time every spring. And so in May, the basic financial statements need to be filed with the state. And then in June, the comprehensive or the much larger financial statements are filed by the end of June, as well as the audit needs to be completed by June. So this year, we also had a single audit, which is a audit of our federal awards that we received last year for some large projects that we have going on. So just some things I wanted to point out. We did so in the packet you have some letters from the auditors. We had positive results. We did not have any findings. Any findings are those are significant items that we need to do something about, like now, to fix. So we do not have any of those for 2022. Two items that they wanted to point out was just the purchasing policy issues with the Christmas light project. In January of this year, we discussed that with City Council, and we took some action to make some corrections there. And then also development charges for the NCA were not being assessed. So I found that there were parcels that were not, that the paperwork had not been filed with the county, and then also that the county had not applied some of the assessments that they should have been doing for the last couple of years. So the community development director and myself, we sat down with the county in May and went through a list of the parcels, and so we're starting the process of getting money back. And what was happening is that those parcels were paying their taxes, but the taxes were being distributed the normal way. They weren't being distributed to the NCA like they were supposed to.
So
So,
there will be no change for the resident.
correct. Yeah, the residents do not see any impact there. They don't know, they're just writing a check to the county.
Right,
That's-
that's the
that's
part
all
of
they
it I
see.
didn't understand
Right.
when I was reading this.
Okay, yep. So, so that is, we're already seeing the benefits of that. This past week, we received the second half taxes from the county, and we already have a much larger number that we've collected for the NCA. So it's important going forward. So, yeah, so that was done. So the auditors had to mention that part about the charges because it was a restatement of last year's, the 2021 statements. And anytime any previous statements have to be restated, they have to note it in their letter. So it's not a bad thing. It's just, we've made some corrections. We've found some things and we've taken action on it. So reviewing the 2021 comments in the financial reporting section, there were misstatements for the receivables from the county. What happened was the county gave us information and we put it on the basic statements, and then the county gave us revised information after we already filed the statements, and we had to revise the statements. And so, again, it was just because we had to revise the basic statements last year, they had to note it, and so that's already been resolved. And then there were misstatements on our inventories. We just had some calculation errors. We fixed that during the process, and the auditors found that. We fixed it. We gave them the right number, and we moved on, and that's been corrected. So, and then capital assets, that's been resolved. We adjusted some of the depreciation numbers in working with the auditors. We did come to the correct numbers that we needed. So all of those things were minor in that, like, the number differences were not very much, but things that they just wanted to make sure that we were working on and correcting. So so we've taken those actions, and everything is good to go at this point. And you'll see in the letters there that they didn't find anything significant in our processes, and that overall it's a clean audit, and we should be receiving the Auditor of State Award again this year. I've not been officially notified, but because we don't have any findings, we qualify to get the award. So, but I hope to be able to share that with everyone soon, and that's all I have unless there's any questions.
On the NCA, who's responsible for turning those charges in?
If you want me to chime in. So on the new community authority, the way that works is the single-family homes at the closing, we're supposed to sign the CRA, the Community Reinvestment Area Application document. Right. It appears that several of those, I believe, I don't have it in front of me, Shirley, but if I recall correctly, there may still be about 14 or 15 outstanding that still have not been done. Ultimately, what that means is, and this answers Jeanette's question as well, those residents are paying their taxes. However, those taxes are then supposed to go in a different bucket to help pay down our debt for the NCA or for that development. And we still have to go, and Matt and Don were doing a great job on this. Matt gave me and showed me the ones that had not been filed. So I'm assuming those residents were never given the CRA application during the closing. So we have to try to still address that. And then, as Don stated, there were then others that the county unfortunately just didn't capture that were actual applications and were filed.
I saw that.
Yeah, so there's another piece of that, and it's obviously either through the closing process or staff oversight or something, but we're going to try to address that moving forward. But it's going to take some work, probably by me or someone, to go out and explain to them that yes, this is an abatement application, but you're still going to pay your taxes. It's just redirecting that money.
So all in all, it looked like a good audit.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yes, it was. Thank you.
Is there anything you need from council on that?
No, it's just a report. Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
Okay, the second item is the property tax amounts and rates legislation.
Yes, thank you. This is a yearly item that has to be approved by city council each year, and then the legislation then goes to the county so that they can apply the millage or the property taxes that we have had for many years. So these are police and fire pension and general fund levies that have been in existence for many decades. So this is not an increase in the tax rates. It's just, the annual approval to let the county make those assessments for property tax payments next year. So I'm just requesting legislation to move that on to the next meeting, the next city council meeting. Thank you.
I'll make a motion that we have the property tax amounts and rates resolution moved to the next council meeting for approval.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Burchett?
Yes.
Mrs. Witt?
Yes.
Ms. Marcus?
Yes. The next item is the budget transfer for the annual paving program.
Yes, thank you again. This typically would be the Community Development Department, but for this time around, I just said I would be the one to put this in. The asphalt concrete paving program has gone a little bit over the expected amount for this year, and that program has a coordinated effort with Montgomery County. And so I also included an email that stated that the final invoice is just over $10,000 more than what the original project amount was stated to be. So we did have a resolution. We did have money put on a purchase order for that project, and it's just a little bit over. We have used up the entire annual paving program line for this year. However, there is extra budget money left over in the sealing and striping project line. We are done with the sealing and striping for the year. So the proposal was to ask for a transfer from the sealing and striping line to the annual paving program line to be able to pay this additional cost.
That is $10,000. I thought it said 15.
I was asking for a transfer of 15 when looking at the budget for the whole year. Sometimes it's easier to have more round numbers. So 15 is just a little more cleaner when looking at many expense lines. So
So you need legislation to transfer the 15,000.
yes.
I make a motion that legislation be prepared for the next council meeting.
Any other questions or comments?
One comment, just for clarification, this is the interjurisdictional agreement with Montgomery County for Union and Liberty Ellerton when those were resurfaced.
Oh.
So it was a Montgomery County-led project.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Burchett?
Yes.
Mrs. Witt?
Yes.
Ms. Marcus?
Yes. The next item is the outdoor warning sirens.
So this is a follow-up from when this subject came up a couple of weeks ago when I was in the acting city manager's seat up there. So I want to give you a little history on the sirens and bring you up to date and then kind of get you an idea of where council wants me to go from here. This was a map of the city back in 2002. The four dark black dots are the neighborhood sirens that were taken away here a few years ago. The three big dots, the one to the north, that siren is also gone. That was at Station 28. So Chief Sigler had started the program to cover the whole city with 6 sirens when we originally had 7. As you can see, those dots indicate the coverage area that those sirens provided. So you can see a lot of area of the city that was not covered. So his idea was to go with more modern sirens and to cover the entire city. So the next slide, Aaron. So those green dots you see on there, you'll see the designations form, which are just siren designations. You'll see AAG is on Route 4, AAB is on Pinnacle, AAD is on Main Street, and then we have them on Cobblegate, Dryden Road, and then on Springboro at the transfer station. Next slide, Aaron. One more. So those sirens, those 6 sirens have a range of 1 mile radius. So those are the radiuses. The original map I had did not show how much they covered the city. So that is the entire city covered, rated by those sirens. So that was the intent of the program, was to cover everything, and I believe that is upside down, actually.
I was about ready to say that.
No problem. They're all out here standing on their heads, Aaron, they got it. So we'll go to the last map. So I contacted the company that was responsible for installation of those 6 sirens, and I told them that the complaints that we were having. So this map actually is by decibel level of what the sirens should be providing for the city. So the very center of those is something that would be about 100 decibels, which I had provided would be something in the area of a loud leaf blower or chainsaw. The yellowish that goes around those sirens would be 90 to 100, which would be a shouted conversation or a loud motorcycle. The reason they're not consistently round, they have those funny shapes to them, is because of terrain. So, you know, the one on Main Street has the apartments right next to it, so lower areas don't carry as well, where other directions, if it's down below them, would carry better. So that's why you see they're not a consistent pattern. So then the yellowish green would be 80 to 90 decibels, which is equivalent to heavy traffic. And then the green area, which encompasses all of Moraine, is 70 to 80, which is an average radio, or going inside of a car about 60 mile an hour is the best I could find out. So the company had recommended if you have complaints of certain areas to let them know. They would make recommendations for neighborhood sirens and give us cost. So I need to know where to go from here. The 2 complaints that we had when I was up front here, I actually sent crews out on Labor Day. We couldn't do it the following Monday because the weather was bad, and we don't do the test if the weather even looks somewhat
Right.
bad because we don't want to alarm people. So they were out on Labor Day, and they recorded on their phones. And on Ned Drive, you were able to clearly hear the sirens, and on behind the service department there on outdoor, they were clearly able to hear them from there. So as I said that night, you know, if it's a windy day, the sound doesn't carry as well. They're designed to cover the whole city, but there are times when they will not, and they're not designed to wake you up out of bed at night. So, I mean, if that's the kind of system you want, then we have to look at something else, but that wasn't the design for it. Now, I will tell you, in this year's budget, again, I have asked for money to update those 2 older sirens that Chief Sigler did. I think he did them around 2000, and all that equipment's been hanging on the pole since then, and it needs to be updated. So I did put money in this year's budget, and I've done it in other budgets, but it got cut. But they need to be updated to keep those in service. They are a hybrid siren. It's part federal and part American Signal. Any questions, comments, anything for me?
Yeah, I was a little surprised to get up in the morning and find a fire truck going across my street in front of my house, blocked my driveway. I'm standing there wondering, why is this truck there? And all of a sudden, the siren goes off. And this time, I could hear it.
Yep.
I don't expect people to be able to hear it if they're playing a stereo or something like that.
Sure.
But like your windows are open.
Well, and that's what I mentioned that night. I was
That-
like, you know, people sleep in their houses with, you know, things over their eyes and white noise on their radios or whatever to help them sleep. And there's just no way to design a system that will penetrate every home in the city. The intention of these are for people outdoors to tell them to go indoors and turn on their radios or their TVs. I mean, that's, if we
Right.
want more, we can certainly do more, but
During a storm
that's
or
the
not.
system we have, and that's what it was designed for, so.
That was appropriate this time. You don't really want to blast people, but you do kind of want to get their attention, and you're going to have someone playing hard rock or something like that, and they're not going to hear it. That's not what they're intended for. But like before, I used to hear the sirens with no trouble, but I hadn't heard them in quite a while. And I don't have air conditioner or anything, so my windows are open in the summertime, and I couldn't understand why I wasn't hearing it at all. But this was much better, and the fire truck in front of my house was appreciated and kind of entertaining.
Unfortunately, most tornadoes, at least the ones that do the major damage, happen at night. So I, for one, would like something that would wake me up. Because think of all the people in Northridge and around when that tornado hit, or those tornadoes hit. Had those people been asleep, we would have had massive deaths.
So and I mentioned that other night also, you know, we do also get complaints about them being too loud by the people that live near them. So I want you to keep that in mind, but they do make smaller neighborhood sirens, they call them. They have a limited range. They're obviously a little bit cheaper. These sirens today, to have them installed on a pole with power and it have to have its own transformer and all that, we're probably looking at $75,000 a siren. I don't have a price on the neighborhood ones yet because I haven't gotten an answer of what is wanted, but I can make sure that it's followed up, and if you can tell me what you want.
That's what I'd like to see, because
But if we put one in your neighborhood, then everybody's gonna want one in
that's what
theirs.
he said, neighborhood.
Yeah, we can put them
They
in
need to
all
go
the
in all
neighborhoods. They're just gonna
neighborhoods.
come with a price.
I didn't ask just for mine, that would be
Oh.
stupid.
But
They do make radios, and maybe what we need to do is have information available to people as to where they can get these radios that will turn on at night if there is a warning and let you know. They've been out for a
I believe
number
there are
of
also
years.
grants for those to where, like we do our smoke detectors and that,
Right.
to where we might be able to apply for that, to be able
Sure, it comes out
to
on
supply
mine.
those
Maybe
that
they
would
probably
want something
don't.
like that. I mean, certainly that would be a lot more and more effective than outdoor warning sirens.
Yeah.
Because they're mechanical and they have battery backups and we have computers and all that kind of stuff, is subject to failure, especially in a disaster. Most of the radios have, little batteries in them themselves also for backup. But, I mean, there's options out there. We just have to know which way to go.
But the same people that would complain about the loudness of a tornado siren are probably the same ones that complain about Caraflight going over to get gas stuff. I've heard complaints about that, and I say, well, just pray it never is coming for you. Some people's going to complain regardless.
right,
Well, I thought the level of the sound where I was would have woke me up at night, but I don't have other noise going on and so forth. And you're going to have differences in the noise level according to how close people are and the geography of the terrain. So I just think it'd be a good idea to have some information available on those radios in case somebody wants to get them.
Well, I can have them pursue both ways, see what neighborhood sirens would cost per site, and then also what's available out there as far as weather radios.
Hey, Dave, for clarification, the neighborhood sirens, none of them are meant to actually be heard inside, or are the neighborhood?
None of them are meant to be heard inside.
I mean, they're
They're all meant
guaranteed
to
to
be
be-
outdoor only. Like I said, there's no way to design a system not
Nice,
knowing
very
each individual house, how insulation is, how new the windows are, what they're, they may have their TV up loud, you can't,
Okay.
you can't plan for all that. There's nothing that's out there that's able to be designed to be.
Well, yeah, we
Inside
can't
people's
plan for
houses.
people with disabilities and so forth either. That's one more reason I thought they're having the information for people where they might be able to buy their own radio to fit their own needs might be an option.
Sure, that's an easy one.
Hard to hear
Can't
you.
you also get an app on your phone?
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
yep.
Yeah, WHIO will.
I think Channel 7 offers it for free on their website.
but would we just like get ones for the homes like we do the,
Smoke detector.
yeah, have so many that.
I mean, we actually have them in the firehouse. We bought them for the firehouses to make sure we know when something's coming, because sometimes we're busy and not able to have a TV or a radio on,
If there was a grant, though, would the intent to be to hand them
Yeah.
out the same way fire does
Yeah,
smoke detectors?
I don't know that there's any available right now. I know there has been in the past, so that may be something to pursue. I say, well, we can check to see if there's anything like that out there.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea, especially elderly that don't have a smartphone or something like that. That would be a great idea for people like that,
There's a lot of them are hard of hearing that would not even help them.
oh, I have a feeling one of them, because I've had WHIO before, that thing is loud.
Oh, I got woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning one time by an Amber Alert, about gave me a heart
Tell me
attack.
about it. I had to turn mine off.
Yeah, I did too for a while.
I,
Yeah, I think this is much improved over what we had.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have our credit card policy update.
Yes, thank you. Want to make sure Dave had a chance to speak, so it wasn't just me for this whole list of business, so. We found for our credit cards that there were a couple of positions that could use a increase to their card limit, just because some of their purchasing practices have changed, buying some more things online, and just needing, and then also just being able to pay more things with a credit card as opposed to writing a check. So the Parks Department approached me about increasing their card limits because they kept hitting their monthly limit for the last several months here. So this is just an update to revise the card limits for the Parks Department and then also for the HR Administrator. There's no wording change to the policy, so it's merely just updating a couple of individual card limits.
And you found these limits to be reasonable?
Why does the HR person need?
Yes,
I know one went from 1,000 to 10,000. I thought, well, there's got to be a reason.
yes. Yeah, so for the HR Administrator, there's certain certain payments that, depending on the timing in the month, or like the particular month, that position could have a number of payments to make that exceed $1,000. And what happens is that our credit card is paid once a month, and so once the payment goes through, then everyone's cards reset for their credit limits. And so that 10,000 is more than enough, but it's just one of those, like, there might be a month where there's, a number of invoices to pay. And it's just, just a little more convenient if you can pay them with a credit card instead, so.
I did wonder why we were doing it twice this year, because normally we only do it once a year.
Correct.
So
yes.
that was going to be my question, why are we doing it twice?
Sure.
Because we just did it back in March.
Yes. It was really driven by the Parks Department. The Parks Director asked me, hey, can we, increase the card limits, just because, his staff, they're trying to do more programs, trying to
True.
do some different things, and so they're doing more, purchasing online, doing some different types of purchasing than they have in the past. So with their increased activity and trying to put out different programs and those types of things, they're kind of running into hitting their limits at times. One thing is one thing that we've paid for a long time is like the Porta Johns and
For the events.
yes, and then some like trash pickup for special events. Those things we can pay by credit card, but those are sometimes some large payments, all up, at one time. So it just helps them to be able to, pay those types of things as well as just their regular payments, that their regular operations, I guess.
And I heard Terry ask Mike, what does the HR person need a credit card for? Like what kind of expenditure?
Sure. So
Because I didn't hear the answer.
the HR
So we all need to know.
HR position is paying for pre-employment screenings.
Okay,
We do random drug testing.
okay, so
We
that
do-
comes out per budget.
Yes, yeah, a lot of pre-employment and then also current employment testing type services. Physicals, yeah. There's some other services
Okay.
that are related that you know, she pays for. And with the times changing, more vendors are accepting credit card payments
Okay.
with no fees.
And one thing I would like, if this is public, it is public record, it shows on there that each council member and the mayor has a $3,000 limit on our credit card. We don't carry credit cards, they're in the vault. I would like that noted so the public will know that each one of us don't have a credit card.
Sure.
That we can go out and spend $3,000.
Sure, yeah.
Just to clarify that.
I think that was put in there
Right.
originally in case maybe you were traveling for
Yes.
city business.
Yes.
It would-
We've never
it would
carried
make-
them.
It was much easier to,
We go through our clerk.
right.
Yeah, that,
Yep.
I believe they were issued only if a council member needed one for, say, a trip or something.
Correct, yeah.
I've never seen one
No,
myself. but-
none of
I
us
think
have.
now, when we were going on National League of
Conference
Cities, we had the option of taking them.
We
if-
did.
Yes,
But we chose
Yeah.
not to.
but it was there and available
Yeah.
for us at that point.
But just so they know, we do
Yeah.
not carry those credits.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, and, you know, something to remember, just because someone has a higher limit, or it seems like, wow, you know, that maybe that limit is higher than they need, it doesn't mean that they are overspending their budget. I mean, so, the budget and our purchase order requirements are still keeping a tab on all of that, so. This is really just for, you know, more modern daily operations, easier to make payments, quicker to be able to receive things that the departments need, so.
We need legislation to
Yes.
approve these updates.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we update the credit card limits as outlined by the finance director.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Witt?
Yes,
Mr. Burchett?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes,
Mrs. Allen?
Yes,
Ms. Marcus?
Yes. We have no one appearing before council, so we'll do staff and council reports. Parks and Recreation?
Nothing to report, thank you.
Police Department?
Nothing to report, thank you.
Law Director?
I have nothing, ma'am, thank you.
Finance Director?
Nothing further, thank you.
Clerk of Council?
I have nothing, thank you.
City Manager?
I have no items, thank you.
Mayor?
I have nothing to add, thank you.
Mr. Burchett?
No report, thank you.
Mr. Miller?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Mrs. Witt?
nothing to report, thank you.
Mrs. Allen?
no report, thank you.
And I also have nothing, so we'll adjourn this meeting at 6:48.